Welcome to the Northern Business Podcast, a regular discussion with people in the north of England who lead businesses, employ people, and have new ideas to help our economy grow. Northern Business Podcast is produced by Recognition PR, which serves scores of companies in different sectors across the country, some which occasionally contribute. We are kindly sponsored by Virtue Motors plc, one of the top automotive retailers in the UK, with a network of dealerships representing some of the world's most popular brands. It also owns the successful commercial vehicle retailer Vans Direct. I'm Josh Mason, and today my colleague Caroline Walker is co-presenting.
Good to be here. And we've got two great guests today. And we're going to be talking about things that every business is interested in. And that's AI, cybersecurity, and everything.
These things that we're told are the future of business.
Absolutely. So we have got John Renshaw. Hello, John. John is Deputy Director of Commercial Research at global cybersecurity organisation NCC Group. And Kyle Hill is also with us, Technical Services Delivery Director at ANS Group. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I'm going to ask you first to provide us with a brief overview, an elevator pitch of your business and what it does and what it's doing for its clients. So, John, do you want to go first, NCC Group?
Yeah, absolutely. So NCC Group, as you mentioned, are a global cybersecurity company. We have both professional services and managed services divisions. So if you think of us as a company that you can engage with to help you on your cybersecurity journey, whether that's by getting us to test your systems to understand how secure they may or may not be, if it's to help you on your cybersecurity journey, improving your systems, or if it's supporting your live operations with managed services, security operations centers, and those sorts of things. I sit within our CTO office as a research director, so my job is to stay abreast of all the interesting things that are coming down the pipe that might affect the cybersecurity of our customers and society more widely.
And are your customers across most sectors?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, we've got a strong presence. Our headquarters are in Manchester, and we've got strong presence in Europe, North America, and Australia and Asia. And we work across all sorts of different sectors: public sector, financial, utilities, critical national infrastructure, all sorts of different specialisms within our business, experts across various technologies and sectors.
Lovely, thank you. And Kyle, can you give us an overview of ANS Group?
Absolutely, and hello to you all, and great to be here. ANS, we are a digital transformation specialist, focusing on everything from cloud to digital to security. Primarily, we're partnered with Microsoft and Broadcom. We have a little over 700 employees, and we like to think we're creating a tech movement originating from the north of the UK, also based in Manchester. And AI for us is key, and especially AI readiness and what that means for businesses across the UK and how they adopt that and drive some adoption and some success with several different technologies that relate to that.
And you mentioned AI there, and the EU AI Act has just come into force. But actually, is that actually going to be relevant for most British businesses?
Very interesting point there, because there is this perception that the UK is divorced from the EU now. And in reality, the legislation in the EU is going to drive a lot of what shapes AI solutions of the future. We're seeing a lot of legislation and regulation in the UK as well, in the US. And I think it actually provides a springboard and an opportunity more than a roadblock and a blocker, in terms of it sets out some key principles and some really fundamental things that we can all adhere to use AI in a responsible way that drives positive outcomes rather than some of the negative doomsday scenarios that some people think are coming with the technology.
So, Carl, what most of us I suspect you haven't read it in detail, Caroline.
Read the whole thing. No.
For most of those of us who haven't read the EU AI Act, what are the key headlines?
I think it is a really interesting read, and for those that are interested, the EU versus the US approach on the regulation is quite contrasting. Let's put it that way. But from an EU perspective, it's very much about a framework for, number one, defining what is an AI solution. And I think there's a lot of debate about what classifies an AI solution or not. But on the back of that, then laying out this framework around classifying AI solutions and technology against the risk factor. Broad definition, broad set of technologies that go into that, but then trying to evaluate their impact against this risk rating metric so that we can go and drive some appropriate actions around some of the key concepts that they've identified, whether that be transparency, traceability, trying to ensure that we're not infringing on some human rights. There's some environmental and ESG concerns. So really, laying out some ground rules around what and how this will be enforced.
Can I just ask John, here in the UK, our businesses, are we on a par with the sort of Europe, America and other countries in our adoption of AI? Are we lagging behind? And actually, should we be further ahead? And will this EU legislation drive what is going to be happening in the UK?
Well, I think the UK is recognised as a leader in the world in terms of AI research capabilities, and some of the talent in both industry and academia that we have is certainly recognised as such. So I think from that perspective, we're in a very strong position, and we saw our political leadership last year in convening various countries and our formation of the what's now called the AI Safety Institute. So I think we really have been putting ourselves on the front foot from that perspective. I think going back to the EU Act itself, obviously that is a really big piece of legislation, and an analogy I like to make is the GDPR. Even though technically we are no longer in the EU within the UK, businesses that want to sell into the EU will need to comply with relevant EU legislation, and so businesses, I'm sure, will be very familiar who sell into the EU will be very familiar with GDPR. And they will need to get that same level of familiarity with the AI Act if they're selling into the EU with any applications that have aspects of AI built into them.
Can I throw something out to both of you? We're talking about AI, but I mean, at the moment, what all we're seeing on the news channels is bombs and missiles dropping. But actually, I'm suggesting that you can probably bring a country to its knees with the press of a couple of buttons if you're good enough at hacking. And this is where I'll let John tell you his little story.
I mean, it's not a story per se, but in our house, I take the threat of things like cybersecurity breaches and attacks, everything from cybersecurity to extreme weather, blackouts, the whole pantheon of threats, and we take it quite seriously. So we always have cash in the house. In the last probably 6 months, we've had 4 or 5 significant credit card outages at major high street banks and retailers in the UK. We've had the NHS has been attacked by cyber hackers. So in our house, we have things like we have a little primer gas stove in the garage in case our gas gets cut off. We have a
wind-up radio,
wind-up torch. We're all set for the coming apocalypse. Maybe we're taking it a bit far, but actually, what a lot of us forget is that we are so heavily reliant on all of our networks are so heavily reliant on the internet now that actually by taking out some of our some of those services, we could immediately collapse. Our electricity could go down, our water supply, our gas supply, our TV, the whole works. How much of a threat is it, and how prepared do you think we are?
Well, anyone can tell just by listening to you there that it is a threat. In terms of the preparedness, it's a journey that we're going on. I think we are making good strides in ensuring that the organizations deemed as critical national infrastructure and telecommunications networks fall within that, as well. It's not just power systems and water and things like this. It includes telecommunications. It includes financial sectors. There's a lot of different sectors now that fall under that umbrella. And because they fall under that umbrella, they have to meet regulatory requirements to have mature processes around how they manage their cybersecurity risks. Now, having those processes doesn't mean that you are not going to get hacked. But what having those processes does do is mean that you're on a journey of cybersecurity improvement, both from a prevention perspective, trying to defend your network and ensure that you don't get hacked in the first place. But I think just equally as important is also the ability, what we call cyber resilience, the ability to recover once you have been attacked. And you listed a whole bunch of examples there of cyber security related outages. And I think it would be ignorant to assume that your particular part of the world is never going to get hacked. What you need to do is be prepared and understand how you are going to recover in the reasonably likely event over the medium to long term that you probably will be hacked at some point.
So you don't think I'm completely mad, John? You don't think I'm completely mad?
No, I mean, I don't personally have a camping stone. There's a little bits, but maybe I'm more of an optimist than yourself.
You were not in agreement there, Kyle.
I was, and I think there's another sort of attack vector, if you will, to consider. So John was talking a lot about the networks and the technology side of things. There's a people side of things as well. If thinking of some of the negative ways AI can be used around content generation, deep fakes, and the authenticity of some of the content and the misinformation that can be spread. It's very easy now to go and, catfish someone or misrepresent yourself, be dishonest and do some sort of social engineering attack and get in that way. So it's not necessarily just on the technology flaws. It's potentially, some just, and let's not call them human flaws, human goodnesses, kindness, trying to do something and can lead to that attack vector as well. And it's opening up a whole range of new security options that we need to defend against that we just didn't have when the world wasn't as connected as it is today.
Because Donald Trump talks about fake news and he means that in a different way. But actually, I think we've all, whether we know it or not, we've all seen on various social media platforms things that are targeted at us, whether it's during an election or whatever, that are, turn out to be blatantly untrue. And you see lots of comments sometimes on posts, which are, again, people say, well, they're just a lot of bots. It's quite scary out there, isn't it?
I think it's very interesting. We were warned months ago that this US election was going to be the first deep fake election, weren't we? I don't think that's materialized in the way that perhaps we thought it might. Maybe we're kind of sheltered from it. Do you guys know no different?
So I mean, that there were a number of deep fake incidents during the British election recently. Now, and in the earlier run up to that, I would agree with you that maybe they haven't quite had the impact that people were expecting. But certainly we are in the place where the deep fakes can be made to be very realistic and challenging even for someone who is maybe a bit more on the skeptical end of the spectrum to tell, for certain, is this real content or is it a deep fake?
No, because what I was going to ask is, I mean, we know that we're actually real people. Promise you we're real people, but I'm quite sure there will come a time when we might not be real people sat here. We might be an AI, the deep fake, an AI creation, whatever you want to call it. Are we actually almost getting to that point? And if you could both sort of cast your mind into the future, maybe only the near future, sort of the next 5 years or so, how is AI going to develop and how is it actually going to impact on our businesses and our everyday lives?
I mean, I'll start us off there. I think it is fundamentally going to revolutionize not only our businesses, but our ways of working as well. Hopefully that's not news to anybody, but we're already starting to see a lot of job role augmentation, AI filtering into whether it's on your mobile device or a personal assistant that you may have in your home, to productivity tools that you have in the workplace, to pattern matching and massive data sets. And there's this perception that it's going to come for our jobs. I think that's absolutely untrue. It's just going to generate a whole lot of new and additional jobs that we hadn't thought of before. And I think it's really going to have some fascinating impact in and around the scientific community, where they can use these models to go and discover new elements, or do protein mapping and genomics and invent new cures, and things like that. So really, really profound. And I think doing it in a responsible way, so that we get the benefits rather than the negativity that we could. We just discussed the doomsday scenario. I think that's what the legislation is trying to set us up for, and getting that balance right. We've got this huge amount of power. How do we use it in an optimal way? I think that's going to be the challenge.
John?
Yeah, if you'll allow me to focus in on my specialist area, which is cybersecurity.
Of course.
We are seeing that it is having an impact on various aspects of cybersecurity. So, as we were talking about the deep fakes, the hackers can use these technologies to try and hack systems through social engineering. So trying to get users of these systems to believe that they are someone else that they might perhaps trust, a member of their IT team or someone senior within the organization. So we've seen examples of that, and then the levels of automation that the AI might bring is a boon to both the attackers and the defenders. Focusing more on the positive side, then there are definite use cases again for AI and machine learning algorithms to assist cyber defenders in detecting and reacting to malicious activity on their networks. So going forwards, there's and already in existing capabilities, there's large reliance on machine learning models to drive a lot of the technologies that cyber security defenders rely on. But then something that's very interesting and something that we deliver as a consulting engagement is actually the cybersecurity of the AI systems themselves. So when you develop these models and deploy them out into the world, they are actually susceptible to unique types of attacks. And so there's whole classes of types of vulnerabilities that we can test for and try to assure the models and the systems that digital innovators are deploying in their systems to try and deliver these leaps forwards in productivity and applications that the AI is going to enable, and that links back then to the EU AI Act, where some of these what the Act identifies as high risk systems. There are requirements in the Act for developers and implementers of these systems to apply good cybersecurity practices around risk management, around testing, all of these things. So, as we're moving forward and deploying these capabilities, let's make sure that they are cyber secure in and of themselves, as well as worrying about the potential impact that they may have on hackers' ability to hack various systems.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know about you, but I think what I'm getting out of this is, thank goodness there's people like John and Kyle to look after those of us who are slightly less tech savvy.
It's interesting what Kyle says. I mean, about the impact on jobs. I've spoken to a few sort of AI experts over the last couple of years. They seem to be proliferating along with AI itself. But the kind of the viewpoint that I've heard from several of them is that actually what this is going to deliver is huge productivity gains, which are going to mean that effectively lots of us are sitting with our feet up, for a lot of our time, which sounds very, very tempting. But what you're suggesting is that actually what this is going to do is open a whole new basket of opportunity, which is slightly different take than the one that I've been hearing elsewhere. Bit of a fun question to finish off with then. If AI could do one thing for you, what would it be? A real thing, a thing that AI could actually do. What do you think?
John, you look as though you've got an idea there.
No, I'm struggling.
Well, my favorite thing that I do with AI at the moment is that when I go home from work and to save having an argument with my wife about what we're going to have for dinner, I open the fridge and type into ChatGPT what we've got in the fridge, and it tells me what we should cook for our dinner. It solves all kinds of domestic issues. It's fantastic.
Very clever. Well, please, can I have an AI striker for my football team that never misses an open goal?
My silly answer would be sort the recycling out for me, because that job is a pain. In terms of in my work life, I think there's a lot of grinding through documentation, and in research we have to consume lots of information, and we have to be able to play it back in a way that is context relevant, to the report that we're writing and what have you. And we're working on how can we apply some of these new AI technologies to make that job. It's an interesting job, but it can be long and hard work. So how can we retain the interesting part of it and don't lose that, whilst maybe taking a bit of the burden away?
Yeah, to be honest, we should have taken the EU AI Act, put it into ChatGPT,
and told us
what it'll summarise it for us. I never thought about that. Kyle?
I mean, when you say that, my ask is slightly similar to that, but fundamentally AI to challenge me. What does that mean? There's that common saying, you don't know what you don't know. And with the advancements of some of this AI, suggesting things, or travel to destinations that you didn't know was a thing, or go and learn about something else, or go and experience some cultural food dish or something like that, really broadening your horizons based on all the data and the reasoning and some of the context and the personalization that can provide you. But really, it sounds, very optimistic, but, be a better you, challenge you, learn some things that you didn't know before, get you out of your comfort zone. I think that's really something for me that it would do.
Great.
Fantastic. That's been really, really fascinating. Slightly scary, but I think maybe also a little bit optimistic.
There's lots
as well.
lots of opportunity there. Lots of opportunity
yes.
there.
Yeah.
Thanks again to John and Kyle. Now, if you'd like to join us as a guest on the Northern Business Podcast, feel free to get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. With thanks to podcast producer Harry Sinclair and technical operator Robin Campbell, join us next time for the Northern Business Podcast. Never miss an episode. Like, rate and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.